Hello everyone and welcome to TV Talks, the show where I take a look at both the good and the bad of what television has to offer. Sorry, one more delay before we get back to the 4Kids Fox Box Marathon, but this one is kind of urgent. Hey Arnold, the Jungle Movie. The myth, the legend. Now this thing has been in production for a long time, more or less. You see, Hey Arnold debuted back in the mid-90s, when Nickelodeon's Nicktoons were still pretty new. At the time, there were just 5 others: Ren and Stimpy, Our Real Monsters, Rugrats, Doug, and Rocko's Modern Life. Then Hey Arnold came out, created by Craig Bartlett. It was a huge success right from the beginning. The show is about a boy named Arnold. He is a kid with a very elongated head and lives in the city somewhere with his grandparents. He has a best friend named Gerald, and he's got a girl who absolutely hates him except doesn't. It's a long, complicated thing, and it's about him going around solving problems of everyone there, whether it be his friends, his family, the people at the boarding house, or just random people he comes across, like the Pigeon Man or the Stoop Kid, the latter of which is played by Danny Cooksey, who plays the title character of my favorite show ever, Dave the Barbarian. And I completely forgot about that until I watched this movie because, yeah, he's in it, although briefly. The show started off pretty simple, but it got into pretty deep themes, like Helga's obsession for Arnold, even though she doesn't want to admit it, because she's afraid of what everyone's going to say about her, even though she's just completely obsessed with him. The fact that her home life is just awful and that her parents are really neglectful and her mom might be an alcoholic. There's also the mystery of what happened to Arnold's parents because he lives with his grandparents, and all these crazy interactions that go on with the people in the town. And that bit about Arnold's parents is what this movie is about. You see, the series was supposed to have 2 movies. One direct-to-TV, and then one in theaters. And as you all know, there is a Hey Arnold movie called Hey Arnold the Movie. That was supposed to be the TV movie called Arnold Saves the Neighborhood. However, Nickelodeon decided to make that a theatrical release movie, and then when that didn't go so well, because it bombed miserably, they decided to cancel the Jungle Movie, and also the series. Now, it is canceled, because it didn't really end. The last episode in production order, at least, The Journal, ended off with a super big cliffhanger, because we found out that Arnold's parents are explorers in a jungle, and that they just completely vanished after they dropped Arnold off with his grandparents. However, Arnold finds a journal that was written by his dad, and at the end of the journal, he finds a map. And then that was it. We don't know what happens. We don't know if Arnold went out to go find them or anything, or if he just dreamed about it. We don't know. It implied that he went to go find them, but we have no idea. And so they were gonna still make the movie, but then they decided not to, and then there's this whole shaky stuff with Craig Bartlett leaving Nickelodeon, him trying to come back for a while, but fan outcry was intense over the last few years. So Nickelodeon decided, you know what? Nostalgia is huge. I mean, we're already giving Rocko's Modern Life a new movie, which I can't wait to see that. And so, let's do the Hey Arnold thing, and this is going to be pretty big for a lot of reasons. For one, it reintroduces Hey Arnold to a new generation, although I think the little kids that watched it wouldn't get nearly as many themes that went on in here, or really any of it, despite the fact that they did put some episodes back online. But also the older crowd gets to reconnect with Hey Arnold as well. Now, I didn't really grow up with it per se. I started watching it when I was about 12, but it's one of those Nicktoons that was more geared for a mature audience. Not in the same way that Ren and Stimpy was, with its outlandish innuendos and all that kind of stuff. No, this just deals with more mature themes. Stuff that you have to look up some reviews, or actually, even better, some full episodes to see what goes on. But I actually didn't know the Jungle Movie was coming out. I thought it was coming next year. So when I saw an announcement that it was coming yesterday, I kind of freaked out. I'm like, no, I need to catch it. And so then I caught it on the premiere, and what did I think? I thought it was good. It had a few issues, but I thought it was good. Now, keep in mind, people are hailing this as the great second coming of Hey Arnold, and I do think it is good. And I have seen every episode, so I can judge whether it's a good representation of the series, which it is, but it does have some problems. But I'll get to those later. So, it picks up right where the journal left off. Arnold finds the map, and he's become obsessed with finding his parents in this mythical country, San Lorenzo, which actually is an island in Peru, and is not in Central America. But, well. So, then there's this whole Habitat for Humanity type thing that has a trip to San Lorenzo on offer, and Arnold wants to go there so he can find his family, although he's not supposed to do that because it's, it's a school trip. So Helga decides to help Arnold out because she realizes how upset he is and makes this compilation video, which is basically just 2 minutes of fan service. It's basically all the one-off characters that we've seen Arnold help talk about all the ways that he has helped them. People like the aforementioned Stoop Kid or Pigeon Man, but there's also Monkey Man, there's Patty, there's the Coach, and so many others. And so Arnold decides to go there, and then he also wants to go find this guy named Eduardo, who is apparently his parents' friend. And then he finds him, and then all this crazy stuff happens because they get roped in with this crazy pirate. They find that Arnold is supposedly the chosen one to save the green-eyed people, who were the people that his parents were super, super close with. And then there's this whole treasure scheme, and then Helga trying to admit to Arnold that she actually really, really likes him. As well as answering some fan questions like, yes, the teacher is gay. Yes, Gerald and Phoebe are, getting together, which, by the way, spoilers. But that's probably to be expected. So, what are the good things? There's a lot. First of all, the characters look a little different, but that's only because they've supposedly gotten older. While I would say they're in middle school about now, they make it very clear that they're in 5th grade, which, I don't know, the girls look a little too old to be in 5th grade, but that's okay. That's not really an issue. All the characters come back. Not even just Arnold and Gerald, like the leads, and not even just the grandparents, who are my favorite characters, but we also get to see Big Bob, Miriam, Olga, Eugene, Curly, even Brainy comes back. And they all get stuff to do, for the most part. That's one of the issues, but I'll get to that. They all get to come back, and they get to do great stuff. And they're written just like they were in the show. It's like the show just came on, like, a year ago or something. It's like they haven't even taken a break. Now, there are people who speculate that this is the original script that was written back then, with just some modern-day tweaks. That seems very likely, given how well this was written and how in tune it was with the show, and still how real the show feels. Because the show, its main drive is that it feels real. Granted, there are a little bit of exaggerated situations, like the green-eyed people thing is a little strange, and the journal and Parents' Day, as well as being stranded downtown as fruits, but the show never goes too far with pushing it. It's always supposed to seem real. Pay attention to that. So, this, despite being really true to the show, decides to crank up the scale, kind of like Hey Arnold, the movie, did. Only this is a bit better. Now, while that movie was fine, it was decent, it just didn't really feel like it needed to be on the big screen. This does, surprisingly. Yeah, they really did switch it out. This has much bigger of a scale. They're in the jungle. They don't know where they are. They could die at any moment. Especially Gerald, Helga, and Arnold are in super, super big danger. And there are times that they almost die. And there are people that die in this. I mean, we don't know them by name, but we do see them die. Well, we know one of them by name, but that's not important. The action and the animation are very well done. I'm roping these together because, they're kind of one of the same. The action can only be good if the animation can portray it well. And it looks sleeker and more modern, a little more clean, but it's still the same designs, like I said, just with a little bit of an update. And the action's really well done, because especially in the later half, there's a lot more action and a lot more moving around and jumping and swinging and fighting and all that. But it doesn't feel out of the ordinary. It just feels like they cranked it up a bit, because they did hint that this would happen pretty early on. And for the most part, all the actors return. There's just a couple ones that are different, like Helga sounds different, and Arnold's a little bit different. But I don't know if Gerald is the same, but he sounds pretty much the same. Sid sounds the same. Harold, yeah, they all sound it. Of course, the adults are the same, though. How's the emotion? The emotion is actually probably my favorite part in this. Like, I haven't seen Hey Arnold for about a year before I saw this movie, and it's really moving. And I'm not just talking about the parts with Arnold and his parents. That's fine. It's just fine. Well done, but not the standout emotion part. No, no, no. We also see Gerald and Arnold getting in another fight, which is, again, good, but it's not the big drive. No, it's surprisingly Helga's plight. Now, Helga has always been a bit overdramatic in the sense of, her care for Arnold, but that's because, for those of you who don't know, Arnold is the only person who ever really treated her with respect and kindness, and that's what drew her to him, especially because she came in a near abusive home life and all. But in this, she kind of gets tired of keeping this secret from Arnold, and she decides to do a lot more nice things for him. And it's very clear that a lot of other people have caught on to her secret, though. Especially Gerald and Phoebe. Although Phoebe always knew. But at one point, she tries to confess her love to Arnold, and she just kind of gives up. She rips up the picture and the locket, and she just kind of walks away sad. And surprisingly, it's Brainy that comes to the rescue. Which, that alone is a pretty cool thing, because Brainy never gets anything to do. But even despite all this, her kind of giving up, she's still drawn back to him when she sees just how miserable Arnold is, that when he feels like he could never meet his parents. The stuff with Helga in this is just great. I think this is some of the best and sometimes even deepest stuff since Helga on the Couch. So yeah, I have to mention also the ending, which I think everybody knew this would happen. Especially because Craig Bartlett said this would happen. But I don't care, it was still a very nice moment. Arnold pretty much says he kinda knew that Helga liked him, which that draws back to the first movie when she admitted it to his face and then later tried to cover it up. So apparently he just never bought that whole cover up, he just knew from the beginning. And he ends up reciprocating it, and they share their first kiss. Which at the end, it's not that she tries to deny it again, it's more, I guess, she's trying to keep it private. A lot of people have been a little confused at this from what I've seen, but all you need to know about the clarification is to go onto Helga Pataki's Twitter. Because yes, she and Arnold have Twitters. And they make it very clear that they are a thing now. Aww. Hope they end up having little football-headed unibrow kids someday. And yes, of course, the fanship, Gerald and Phoebe, is canon now. A little out of nowhere, but they handled it well. They didn't give it that much screen time to the point where you start questioning it. And you almost think that Olga's gonna get with someone, but nope, she gets her heart stomped on again. The humor is also very well done, especially the grandparents. Anything they do is hilarious. That's why, specifically Grandpa Phil, but also the grandma, they are my two favorites. Yes, even more than other characters like Arnold or Gerald or Helga, as much as I've talked her up. And also we get to see a little bit of karmic retribution for Bob, because the beeper business is pretty much done. Because, who has pagers anymore? So, as Helga even says, they're just outdated and they're a relic of the time past. So yeah, it's good to see that little bit of catharsis. Arnold's parents, they don't get that much screen time, but they are very nice characters. You can tell they care about their son deeply. They never wanted to leave Arnold at the boarding house, but they kind of had to. These people who have saved their lives on multiple accounts were in danger, so they kind of had to go repay the debt. And they got sick, so they couldn't come back. They had the sleeping sickness that they were trying to cure. And the scene where Arnold thinks that he can't bring his parents back is really gripping. Again, that's some of the good emotion parts, not just with Helga, but even Arnold too. Although the kids screeching can be a bit annoying, Arnold himself, with his emotion scenes without the green-eyed kids, is just very well done. It's brief, they don't draw too much attention to it, but it's very potent and effective. And of course that leads to Helga's big admitting scene. Again, the second one, I guess. Or rather, third, because the first one didn't, or the second one rather, and the first one in this movie, didn't end up getting out all the way. We even get a couple meta jokes, actually. I know this review's a little all over the place, but this is kind of the movie, too. Although, intentionally so. We get some meta jokes, like Harold saying that he was a one-dimensional bully until he met Arnold, which is true, because Harold's earlier appearances were just bully. That's it. And again, the whole beeper thing going out of business. As well, a lot of people saying the phrase, "Hey Arnold." Yeah, there's a lot of that. This is very clearly a fan-servicey movie, like I said, with Gerald and Phoebe getting together, and Arnold and Helga getting together, and the final conclusion, which this was built up big, which, yes, this was a finale that was like 13 years in the making. It kind of had to be a little fan-servicey, so some of the cringier parts, like when Arnold's parents kind of wake up and say, "Hey, Arnold," that can kind of be waved away, because not only is it kind of appealing to the fans, but again, it's a bit more of a sweet moment. But I said this movie had some issues, right? Yes, it does. First of all, let's start with the more nitpicky stuff. Stinky, for one. I know he's not really a popular character, but he has like a line in this. Just one. Miriam has two. Abner just kind of disappears, even though he's supposedly there with everyone, and then comes back with the grandparents to help save the kids, because at one point they find out the kids have been captured by that pirate, and so then they decide to band up together and then go save them. And Abner is just not there, even though he was supposedly with them. That's the more nitpicky stuff, but now let's get to the more issue-y stuff. There's two. First of all, there is a subplot with all the kids except for Gerald, Helga, and Arnold stuck in a cage with the guards surrounding by and them trying to get free. And it's a very good plot. And then eventually the Patakis and Arnold's grandparents get involved too. And that's pretty good. But then it just stops. We don't see them again till the very end, if that at all. The last time we see them is when they come to save the kids, and then that's it. We don't see them fight off the guards, we just see a little bit of an explosion. We don't know how they survived or how they got out or anything. They just stop. We don't even really get them mentioned anymore. So people like Harold, Sid, Curly, Rhonda, anybody, even the teacher, or even the grandparents, my favorite characters, they get nothing to do for the second half. They're not even mentioned. I know it's more Arnold's story, but you need to kind of wrap up the subplot. And it wouldn't be as bad if they didn't put such a huge focus on them in the first half. It made it very clear that this was going to be the subplot, but the subplot only gets 2 or 3 scenes and then it just stops. We don't even really get a substantial conclusion, and for half of them, we don't even see them again. The last we see of Rhonda is getting her hair cut off in the middle of the fight scene. The last we see Bob is him right before that explosion. The last we see Olga is when she was trying to get her dad to help protect her, like that kind of stuff. We don't get any real conclusion. Yeah, we see the grandparents again, we see Phoebe again, but that's it. We don't see any of them else again, so I guess they all died. And then this is the one that kind of bugged me a little more. So Hey Arnold was always supposed to be kind of a realistic thing, and yes, the green-eyed thing was a little bit more far-fetched. And yes, I can still stomach that this pushes it to a little bit more of a far-fetched level with like kind of mystic stuff and magic and ancient lore. That's fine. I can still tolerate that. But the whole Chosen One plotline is a little cliched, but again, I can tolerate that. But here's the thing that I didn't get. So the treasure is shaped like a heart, like a human heart. And, well, yeah, that's supposed to create the cure. You're supposed to put that into the machine and it creates the cure and just spreads it all throughout the Green-Eyed City so that everyone is okay. But it falls off a cliff and all is supposed to be lost. So Helga puts her locket into that machine and it fixes it despite not being the same width, weight, or shape. It's just a gold heart that's a completely different heart. That was a little too much to stomach, I think. It didn't make much sense, and I think the analogy was a little too on the nose. Oh wait, no, there's one more issue. I completely forgot about this one. The villain is awful. He's just some greedy jerk who wants money. And he was built up, too. Not even just through this movie. They mentioned him early on in the show. So he seemed like this pretty bad guy. And yes, he is bad. He lets a lot of people die. But his motivation is just money. It's the whole Clayton thing from Tarzan. Or the what's-his-face from Atlantis, the Lost Empire kind of thing. It's just some jerk who wants money and doesn't care about the people. Burn the village. Steal the money. Money, 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 money. And the twist with him is extremely obvious. They do a lot of fake-out deaths with him. They try to make him go from being funny to being threatening, which it kind of works, but they do it a little too much, I think. The villain is kind of weak, and surprisingly, even though I knew that he was bad right from the beginning, I did kind of like him as the fake good guy. But does any of this really hinder my enjoyment of the movie? A little. I mean, these are some pretty decent flaws that nobody really acknowledges. But, you know what, the movie was good. It had a solid middle, a solid beginning, and a solid end. Even the ending was kind of nice with just a little bit of a slow walk to Arnold's new classroom. And his parents wanting to see him again because, you know, it's been years. Aside from those issues I mentioned, everything fell into place perfectly. I'd give this one the Archibald seal of approval for sure. Should you see this? If you're a fan of Hey Arnold, absolutely. Now it's time to talk about the big plan after this. So, Craig Bartlett said if this is a success, Nickelodeon said that they could either have a spin-off show about like everyone years later, or a 6th season of Hey Arnold. Do I want this? Not really, actually. Like, even though I really like the show, I am actually going to go against the grain with the fans here and say we've had enough, I think. This is just for the 6th season, though, more. Although it kind of goes with the spin-off, too. I mean, look at what's happened with things like The Simpsons, for one, or SpongeBob, or Fairly Odd Parents. Those last two specifically are Nickelodeon shows that just kept going and going and going and just kept declining. Because even with a show as simple as the premise as Hey Arnold, you can run out of ideas, like The Simpsons. They started running out of ideas at about, I'd say, season 12. And then, of course, we're here where we're at now, where the season that they have now is just abysmal. I don't want Hey Arnold to go down that road. Because, yes, there's a lot of things they can do, but this thing is, the movie had a very strong sense of finality to it. It made it very clear that the same kind of stuff would happen, but a lot of things have changed now. Although, I do have to say, if a sixth season did come out, I would definitely watch it. But I'd be cautiously optimistic, because I'd want to be careful. Because another thing is nostalgia can blind people. A lot of people say, yes, I want it back, and it's going to be great, but here's the thing. A lot of the people have moved on, like a lot of the writers and producers, so no matter what, it's going to be different. Now, as long as it's not like Powerpuff Girls 2016 or Teen Titans Go, I think we're in the clear. But it will be a little bit different, which I'm fine with. I just don't know about the fans. Now, the one I'd be more inclined to see is the spin-off, which again, I think we've had a little bit much of Hey Arnold. I think this movie would be just fine ways to close it. But if we did see something like about them when they're older or they're kids or something, although it would seem a little fanficky, I wouldn't really mind, actually. Providing Craig Bartlett is at the helm again, I think he could do a lot of good stuff. Because there's a lot of deep themes in Hey Arnold that could be continued to explore, but one cool thing I think would be maybe to put it on like Nick at Night or something, so it could be a little more adult oriented. Like if they actually are older, maybe like have it grow up with the generation that watched it earlier, like kind of what Toy Story did as it got more mature as it went on, as parallel not just the audience but also Andy grew up, kind of that sort of thing. Because there was supposed to be a spin-off originally called The Patakis, where Arnold moved away and Helga was like in high school, and it was going to be more for adults and stuff, and Miriam's alcoholism was going to be explored, and the abusive family life, that kind of stuff. I wouldn't want it to go down the Pataki route, but I do want it to at least be pretty close to that, sort of. Maybe a little bit more adult-oriented. Not an adult cartoon, but a bit more mature. So that way that it's on Nick at Night, they'd be able to go into even deeper themes. That way it'll also have a less likelihood of being stale. But I think I've a bit overstayed my welcome here. Next time, I promise, it's Funky Cops. So, what did you guys think of the Jungle movie? Did you watch Hey Arnold? What are your favorite episodes? Who's your favorite character? Want to just talk about it? Just let me know. Post anything you want in the comments about it, and odds are I'll get back to it. Alright, see you guys next time when we actually continue the marathon as promised. See you later.
Good night, everybody.